So we are required to hold a public hearing on the provisions of the proposed charter and to consider the level of support for the petition. When the public hearing has been opened, we're going to first hear from Bill Clark, the Deputy Superintendent of Business Services. We will then hear from the petitioners. At the conclusion of the presentations, board members may ask questions that they have of staff or the petitioners. After that, we will take comments from the public. We will be asking these individuals to speak in the order in which they've signed up. If you wish to address the board and have not turned in a speaker card, they are available at the back table. Please fill out a speaker's card and give it to the county staff member in front up here at the table, the end of our table. And once again, the meeting is open. So we will now receive comments from Bill Clark.
Good evening, members of the County Board. Tonight we are here for the public hearing of John Henry School Charter. The purpose of the public hearing is to ascertain the support of the community and interest in this charter school. And so tonight is really an opportunity to listen, to hear, and gather information about this petition. The school was founded in 2015, operates in the Richmond area. And at this point, I'd like to invite their presenter to come forward and begin their presentation.
So board members, do you have any questions? Board members, do you have any questions for staff or petitioners?
Can we ask them after the presentation?
Okay. So, yes, members of the public who want to speak in support or opposition to this petition will now have an opportunity to speak. I ask that each speaker... I have to give you this. I have to tell you. So, yeah. The petitioner will have 20 minutes to comment. The timekeeper will give you a 2-minute warning.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, board trustees. My name is Silvia Flores, and I am the site director at John Henry High School. I'm here to present on the school and ask for your support in renewing our charter. I recognize that we have limited time, so I'm going to be doing the presentation, give you an overall picture of what we do at John Henry, and answer any specific questions that you may have at the end. John Henry was founded in 2015 by a group of parents. Some of them are here in the audience tonight. They were looking for a school that would provide their children with a structured, academically rigorous environment. They wanted a school where their children would feel safe and where they'd have access to teachers and administrators when they needed help and support. Our parents envisioned a pathway to college and opportunity for their children living in West Contra Costa. This vision is embodied by our mission statement, which is to provide a rigorous college preparatory education and character development program that will prepare students from underserved communities to succeed in college and beyond. We are a small school with a total student population of 315 in grades 9 through 12. As a small school, we're able to create a community where all members know each other by name, where we care for and support one another. As you can see, 91% of our students are socioeconomically disadvantaged. 8% are students who receive special education services, and 21% are English language learners. This is a significant increase from last year's 11%. The majority of this new enrollment is students who are newcomers to the country. Since opening the school in 2015, we have seen a consistently growing wait list of hopeful families looking to enroll their child at John Henry. As of tonight, we have the largest wait list that we have ever seen, with close to 300 applications for only 90 spots for the next academic school year. We have been open for less than 5 years. This is our 5th year of operation. And we're already sending over 90% of our students to college. 92% of our graduating seniors meet A through G requirements. And 76% of our alumni are currently enrolled in a four-year college or university. We have two amazing college advisors who have been working tirelessly with our students to make sure that they have everything that they need in order to be able to be successful at the college level. As you saw in the previous slide, we have 91% of our students who are socioeconomically disadvantaged, and to support that, we've been helping all of our students with completing the FAFSA or the California Dream application to overcome that obstacle of financing their college dreams. I'm going to transition into a slide so that you can see the data comparisons between John Henry and the schools where our students would otherwise be required to attend. Based on our current families' addresses, we see that over 90% of our students would be required to attend Kennedy High School, Richmond High School, or De Anza High School, with the majority of our students being required to attend Kennedy based on their home address. This next slide is showing you that John Henry students are outperforming their peers at all three of these high schools. This is for the CASP ELA SBAC exam, which 11th graders take. 68% of our students are meeting or exceeding standards in English, compared to 14% at Kennedy, 40% at Richmond High, and 45% at De Anza. Our English scores have increased annually over the past 3 testing years since we opened John Henry, which was in 2015. This next graph shows you our math comparisons. So once again, this is for the CASP SBAC exam. Once again, you can see that John Henry is outperforming all 3 of the high schools that our students would otherwise be required to attend, with 21% of our students meeting or exceeding state standards, compared to 2% at Kennedy, 16% at Richmond High, and 11% at De Anza. We know that we have room to improve, which is why we have invested in a new math curriculum, and we have also restructured the way that we support math instruction at our school. SBAC shows you 1 year of testing data, which is the 11th grade year. So we use the PSAT as our growth measurement, and this is for a cohort of students. This is for the class of 2020, so our current senior class. They have taken the PSAT over 3 consecutive years. They started in 10th grade and 11th grade now as seniors. And I'm proud to report that we do see increases for both English and math on the PSAT. They have increased by a total of 188 overall points, and that is a 100-point increase in English and a 90-point increase in math. This increase can be attributed to our targeted support and intervention program. So we have diagnostic testing, we have interim assessments that we give, and we have our after-school learning lab, which is where a lot of our students are receiving extra supports. Another success that we are seeing is in our English learner program. In looking through the California dashboard data, we found that John Henry has the highest percentage of English language learners progressing towards proficiency in West Contra Costa. That's a rate of 56.3%. That's the highest rate of any high school, traditional public or charter school in the district. Our students receive designated and integrated EL instruction that is aligned to California ELD standards. We utilize Voyager Everyday English as our primary curriculum, and we do supplement that with Language Live and SIPs. Right now, this year, we are in the process of acquiring English 3D as our new curriculum for our more advanced English language learners. We understand that it's vital to have a comprehensive system in place to support all of our students and set them up for success. So our approach is to utilize a multi-tiered system of support and intervention program to make sure that our students are leaving high school ready, not just academically, but also socially and emotionally And in order to serve our students, we hold monthly staff meetings to identify those students that are struggling academically, socially, or emotionally. And we establish a student success team to make sure that we create a plan and we track progress over a set period of time. We have a comprehensive team-based approach which incorporates targeted professional development for staff. We have parent participation. We have school and community collaboration through our partnerships that we have been able to form over the years with outside service providers. And obviously we wouldn't be able to achieve this if it weren't for our committed teachers and staff. Over the last few years, we've been able to attract and retain strong teachers. We have formed strategic partnerships that have helped us to professionally develop not only teachers, but also us as administrators. So we partnered with Relay Graduate School of Education. This has been a partnership over the past 2 years, and we have trained all of our school leaders, our deans of instruction, in order to be able to provide teachers with support on lesson plans, making sure that their lessons are aligned to grade level standards, and that we are looking at assessment practices. Through continuous observation and feedback cycles, our instructional staff are able to focus on the highest leverage actions to address those gaps in student mastery. We hold weekly professional development sessions for staff, which are focused on addressing patterns that we are seeing in the classroom and through our weekly data meetings. As you can see, we're doing everything that we can to accomplish our mission of preparing students for a rigorous college preparatory education. But we also want to point out that we have fun at the school. We have our student life piece. So in terms of student culture, we have many sports and club options for students to participate in. We have a growing sports program that we are expanding based on annual student survey feedback. So last year, our Wildcats won the soccer championship, so go Wildcats. We've had pep rallies, assemblies, Spirit Week to celebrate our community and to build that family atmosphere that a small school provides our students and families. Here are some pictures. This is taken at our most recent pep rally. Our student body government helps to plan and execute these community events to support our school culture. In terms of our college-going culture, we've developed partnerships with Contra Costa College and San Francisco State University to offer college-level courses to our students. So right now we have San Francisco State University who comes to our campus after school and is offering a college class to our students. So we also provide guidance so that students can take advantage of summer programs at colleges such as we've had students at Johns Hopkins, UC Santa Cruz, and Stanford over the summer. We're building into our program a senior project where students are going to be researching a community issue, developing solutions to that issue, and they'll present their findings in a symposium at the end of the school year, which I'll be inviting all of you guys to. And we also have an internship component as part of that senior project because we want them to obtain real life experience. We want them to be able to build a resume and obviously add this to their college application. So this year, another piece is that we had our first full day career fair where we had over 30 businesses and local community members come and speak to our students about their careers and how they got there, what their educational path was. So this photo on the right, that is from our college trip. We took our juniors on a Southern California college trip this past spring. We visited UCLA, UC Santa Barbara, CSU Long Beach, and USC, among other universities. These are a few photos from last year's graduation. On the left, you see Eric Munoz. He's wearing his UCLA-bound graduation cap. That photo embodies the culmination of the work that we do as we send off students to their next chapter in life. Eric is currently thriving in his second semester at UCLA. And since he couldn't be here tonight, he asked me to share the statement that he made to the West Contra Costa School Board at the decision meeting that was held in December. So these are his words. The public schools in our area are failing the kids that they should be preparing for the future that awaits them. I wear John Henry's ideals and mottos tattooed on my skin because what I got from them was deeper than a high school education. They taught me to succeed when the odds are against you. They taught me that anything is possible through hard work and determination. This city needs this school, and I'm living proof of what they're producing. We want the opportunity to continue building our program. We're only 5 years old, and you can already see the positive impact that John Henry is making in the community. These are some of the ideas that we have in mind to continue strengthening our program. So ranging from expanding our course offerings to expanding college and community partnerships. We want to establish a link crew mentorship program between upperclassmen and ninth graders to help them with the transition into high school. And we want to add more field trips, including a possible field trip to Europe in the next few years. As I told you at the beginning of the presentation, John Henry was founded by parents. They envision a pathway to college for their children. Many of those parents have been able to see this dream come true over the past 2 years that we've had graduates, with them being admitted, 90% of them being admitted to four-year colleges and universities. There's a lot of families here, there's a lot of people here, and they are making their voices heard here tonight because they want to demand that same pathway for their children. So I want to thank you for your support. And I look forward to continue collaborating with the district and the county to ensure that all students in West Contra Costa are getting the college preparatory education that they deserve. So thank you.
Board members, do you have any questions for the staff or petitioners at this moment? Hearing none?
I do have some.
Okay.
Sorry. I just didn't know if you wanted to start at one particular spot or move around.
I will call on you from now on, but go ahead.
Okay. Questions for our staff. I want to clarify what our task will be when this comes back up. I know we're reviewing the denial of the renewal. Is it our task to determine if West Contra Unified School District was correct or incorrect in their actions of denying renewal? And are we only able to base our decision on the reason for the denial listed by West Contra, or are we able to consider other matters?
The Education Code requires us to complete the same review standards as if the petition had been presented on a renewal. So it'd be very similar to any other renewal petition that comes before the board. We need to meet the criteria that's outlined in the Education Code.
Okay, so depending on what the outcome is of our action, whether we agree with the denial or overturn the denial, do they then become under the direction of the Contra Costa County Office of Education, or do they stay under West Contra? And in coming under us, do they become as if they're a new charter, or is it just we take over what they had before?
Should the county board approve the renewal, the oversight responsibility for the charter school would fall under the County Board of Education. They would be required to meet the conditions and terms outlined in the petition that's being presented for your review, along with any memorandum of understanding that you might require.
Okay. And if we agree with the denial, do they have an appeal to the State Board of Education still, or is that no longer possible?
We did seek confirmation from the State Board, and they do have an appeal to the State Board of Education.
Those are all my questions for the staff. I do also have some for John Henry. I was going through all the materials, both on the flash drive, that which was presented with the packet tonight for a board meeting, going through your website, and I'm really confused who is on your board. It seems that none of those three things match. Who's on the board, and what happened to the other people that have disappeared? We've got Mina Wilson, she's listed somewhere, she's disappeared. A couple other people, it seems that they've been there, gone, come back, and so who is your board, and how did they get there, and when are your elections?
Yes. So we have our CEO, Nick Baca, and our Chief of Staff, David Steffen, to answer that question.
Our board members right now currently are Gilbert Lopez, Edgar Quiroz, we have Maribel Gonzalez, we also have Peter Hanley, and am I missing somebody? And Hernan Vargas.
So who was the last one?
Hernan Vargas.
What happened to the other people that, like I said, you've got multiple people listed on, even none of the three match.
Right, one of them passed away.
I recognize that.
Right.
I did find that myself.
And I used to be on the board. I'm now the CEO. So I didn't disappear, I just transitioned. So I'm now the CEO, but I was also on the board.
Okay, but there was Mina Wilson. Did she drop
Mina
off
Wilson,
the board? She was there?
She resigned from the board, yes. She was active and she resigned. You have to understand, we are a volunteer board, and people give up their time and devote their energy to this. And sometimes they can comply with certain periods of time, sometimes they cannot. So we ask people to come on the board, they serve on the board willingly, and when they can no longer do so, they depart, they resign, and we replace them with other members.
When are your elections?
They are, we don't have set re-elections. We have boards that are a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 9, I believe it is at this point. 11. And as the board members leave and we need to replace them, we do. There is no set date for election for board members.
Okay, there is a term limit though, so when somebody's term is up, it's just a random date as of when they last got put on the board. Is that what you're saying?
It's not a random date, it's a date they're appointed, and they're there for a 4-year period, and then they leave.
Okay. Are there any parents of John Henry High School students on your board?
Now, Mina Wilson used to have a child at John Henry High School, but she was the only one on the board that had a child at John Henry High School.
Okay. When I was reading, it mentioned that parents who fulfill current desired professional expertise identified by existing board members may also be recommended to AMETHOD Public Schools Board of Directors. She wants to ask a follow-up, and I'll go back to this one.
I'm sorry. Okay. Sorry, I have a question about the board. So in the 4 years, my colleague, Trustee Lewis, inquired about parents on a board, and you said it was one parent, one board member who was also a parent. In the course of the 4 years, how many board members were also parents on the board, and how did parents engage in that process? And whether it's an election, an appointment, how did parents engage in that process?
There was only one board member, Mina Wilson, who had a son at the school. And the process is really we have a nominating committee. And individuals who want to become members are nominated to the board. They are vetted by the nomination committee, and then they are presented to the board. So to the extent that there are people who are interested, they can approach the nominating committee and they can present their credentials, and if the nominating committee believes that they should be vetted and presented to the board, that is the process.
Who is the nominating committee? I was looking at your site and I can't find any place that if I, as a parent of John Henry, wanted to be on the board, who to contact?
Currently, it's Edgar Quiroz and I believe Peter Hanley.
2 board members, yes, okay. So Back to my questions where it says parents who fulfill current desired professional expertise identified by existing board members may also be recommended to the AMETHOD Public Schools Board of Directors. Do your board of directors frequently go out to John Henry School to meet with the parents who have children there and get to know who they are, if they qualify? And could you describe what desired professional expertise might be? Your parents mainly, it sounds like, come from socioeconomic disadvantaged areas. Are they going to have that expertise to be able to be participating?
There are certain things that we would like for board members to have in terms of background and ability. We had at some point a desire to have an attorney, which is where I came into the position. We had individuals who had experience in education. We had a certain criteria that we wanted for board members to have before they were nominated to the board. The parents are free to come to the board meetings and present themselves at that time if they wish to be considered for nomination for the board.
But how would the board know their expertise to be invited as to be a board member if they only can go to the meetings, which I understand are in like Oakland all the time?
They are now in Richmond.
As of when?
As of January 1st. Under the 1505 law, charters who have multiple schools in 2 or more counties have to hold their meetings in the county where they have the most students. Currently, we have the most students in Richmond, and that is where we're holding our meetings.
But prior to that, they were in Oakland, correct?
They were in Oakland, that's correct. And that was not a requirement prior.
And this year, we also had the live viewing of the board. So I was at John Henry for every board meeting, and we had an open door policy for parents to come there, and we had a live screen for those board meetings. In case parents couldn't travel all the way to Oakland, we had them at John Henry as well. So I was there if they had any public comment or if they wanted to speak to the board. We had that communication line open.
Okay, so I'm going to, I know I'm probably hammering this, but do you feel that your parents at John Henry are going to have that, you know, lawyer, education expert? How do we get parents involved in the board and the decision-making of what's going on? Because I heard earlier that this was parent-generated, that you began this school. How are we keeping the parents of the students engaged on the decision-making of the school?
I didn't answer for in terms of the parents being engaged. So we have different avenues for that. And yes, the board meetings is one avenue for the parents to come up and present to the board or make their points heard to the board. We have our family staff team, our FST, which is a parent group that also meets regularly at John Henry, and they are able to voice their concerns, to voice their needs, their wants to us as a school, and also together collaborate on how to better support our students, how to better support issues related to governance, to everything that is happening at the school site and how it's impacting the students. So through our FST team, we also have avenues for parents to communicate their needs, their wants. And in terms of expertise, I mean, I understand that Mr. Vaca, he alluded to one instance where they were looking for an attorney. There's also, Ms. Wilson came on board, I think she came on board 2 years ago, and she did have a student at John Henry High School. Yes, our parents are coming from underserved communities, and yes, a lot of them don't have a college degree, they don't have a college education, but that's not the only thing that we look for when it comes to our board. We want to have more parents involved, we want to have more parent engagement, and we are open to also hearing from other schools, other charters, other public traditional schools to make sure that parents are engaged with our processes. We don't want to stop here. So yes, we've been in operation for 5 years, but we're also looking to improve the way we do things.
Did you have more questions?
Did you have a follow-up?
I was going to ask Ms. Butler if you have
Yes.
a question.
Yeah, so Do your board members actually come and engage with the families at John Henry? When and how often?
Yes.
It's a prepared statement about board governance. Yeah, we have somebody here from the board.
Is it answering the question that I asked, though, or
Sorry.
does it answer the question I asked about how is it that the board members, your current board members, are coming out to John Henry, engaging with the parents, talking with them, so they would get to know them and whether they qualify to be on the board?
When I was a board member, I would come out to the school, to John Henry, and usually prior to a board meeting, and meet some of the parents to discuss it. Some parents did express interest, and to the extent that they were interested, I would speak to them about it. Did not follow up in some instances. In other instances, they took the second step and then stopped there. So that was my activity in terms of meeting with the parents to make sure that they had some kind of interest and some kind of an entree into the board.
Difficult to get financial. She was recently 5 minutes too.
Okay, we can't really hear everything that you're saying because. And could you identify who you are?
I'm Peter Hanley. I'm one of the board members. The board doesn't just represent John Henry. The board represents the other 5 schools also. So, I've just rejoined the board, but I was on the board for 5 years, and was one of the, I guess, the founder of the Richmond schools. I came on the board at the time the Richmond schools were being created. So I spent a lot of time at the schools, and I spent a lot of time at the Oakland schools also. So when you're looking at board members, potential board members, you're not just looking at board members per school, or you're not just recruiting a board member. Mina wasn't recruited to represent John Henry per se. She did have a student at John Henry, but Mina was a board member that was functioning on behalf of the entire organization, not just John Henry High School. As you are board members that are functioning on behalf of the entire county organization, or a board member that is functioning at the district level is functioning on behalf of all of the schools at the district level, not just one school, even though the board member may have a child at 1 or 2 different schools within the district. So when you're looking at potential board members and you're talking to families, certainly you're talking to them about their experience in the school. You're talking about what their interests are, what their concerns are, what their potential fit would be on a board. But it's not just, how would they represent their particular school on the board. It's, what would their interest be in the governance of the organization when you're looking at a potential board member, and what are they bringing to that role?
Can I jump in? So to be clear, Mr. Hanley, there are 4 to 5 board members that represent the 6 schools under AMPS or AMPS.
There are 5 board members.
5 now?
There are 5 board members right now that represent the six schools under AMPS.
Okay.
It's not just, the 5 board members are not just representing John Henry.
Right. No, I understand that. Now I understand that. So can someone speak to the number of students that now these 5 board members represent at 6 locations?
I think it's like 2,200, something like that. 2,200. I think there are 2,200 students in the AMETHOD schools,
Okay.
I believe, right now.
Okay. And it's my understanding, Mr. Hanley, you're a board member in the San Mateo Unified School District now? Or
Union High School District.
San Mateo Union, oh, I'm sorry, this says Unified. Okay, so do you reside within the boundaries of the 6 schools?
No, I reside in San Mateo.
Okay. Okay. I guess I'm directing my questions at representation. So I have a few more, but I needed to jump in and get some clarification.
So anyway, did I clarify in some
Well,
way?
you clarified, but I'm sorry, I am a big advocate for parent involvement, and if this was a parent-generated school, I'd like to have the parents of the students, even if they're other parents of the AMP schools, having a stronger voice in what's going on with the board. And it sounds to me like unless they meet this higher criteria you have, they don't get to participate in that voice, short of having maybe a parent meeting where I'm not even sure how that communication gets from that parent meeting at the school to the board and advocating for what the parents find the student needs.
Well, I think there's a fairly strong connection with the parents at each school. That, you know, there's an ongoing group of parents that are meeting with principals, with teachers, and I think those connections are very strong at each of the AMETHOD schools, and those discussions come up all the time at board meetings and informally outside of board meetings.
Okay, because I've been listening to a lot of your board meetings, trying to see where that voice is coming in from the parents, and that's what I'm trying to find out there. So I do want to ask, you provided in your petition the proposed finances for the coming years. I would like to ask if you could provide us, the board, with the past finances for your organization so that we can actually determine how things have been going in the past, not necessarily what you project in the future. So I'm asking if that could be provided soon for us to consider. Hey, yeah, five, all of them would be great. You've been around for 5. Yeah, I'd love to have that, please. I'm also curious how many students you have that are enrolled from outside of West Contra Costa County School District. Do you know that?
Yeah, so it was on the previous slide. It's very few students who are enrolled outside of West Contra Costa. So it is about 1.5%, I believe. There's a handful of students who are not in the West Contra Costa Unified School District, who don't reside.
Excuse me. I'm also curious if you could provide this in the future, and we can send this request out, as far as what are the records for attendance, as far as absentee rates, if there's chronic absenteeism. I did not see anything on that. How many teachers do you employ at John Henry High School is another thing I'd like to know, and if they're all credentialed. And I suppose I could probably send you a list on this. I do have another question on page 146 under expulsion. You specifically state there is no right to appeal the expulsion. Every child within public school in Contra Costa County, and outside of some of the charters still, are granted that right to appeal.
Yes.
And I'm going to say right out, we'd like to see that they have a right to appeal, and that be removed from that, because you're taking away a right that they would have in a public school.
Okay.
Yes, it is now. Yes, I am done with my questions. I may have more that I submit in writing later, though.
Okay, thank you. And we will send you those documents, the answers. Yeah.
All right, so Ms. Butler, did you have questions?
Yes.
Without repeating the same ones?
Right. No, I have different questions. Thank you. Just to follow up on the board discussion, I do have a question about that as well. There's a letter here at the beginning. I'm looking at my binder, and there's a letter that the school submitted to us explaining some things about this petition.
Yes.
On the fourth page, where it's talking about organization and the board, so it talks about the board being composed of volunteers. I understand that. I was previously on a local school district board, and most boards are volunteers, or pretty much volunteers. But then it's talking about there was a reduction in the number of board members, And I know that it was stated that you reduced the number of board members. However, the bylaws that you included in our petition here doesn't include that. It says that it's 5 and up. I did look on your website and I see there's a separate piece of paper that your school signed reducing the number of board members. But my question is, wouldn't that be a material revision? I believe that's a material revision for West Contra Costa, and wouldn't it have had to go back to West Contra Costa for final approval to make that kind of change?
Yes. So, hi, Janelle Rulli with legal counsel. The law doesn't say that that would require a material revision, and the district didn't require it.
Okay, I believe it's part of the MOU for the petition for West Contra Costa. So the bylaws, and if there were changes, they needed to go back to West Contra Costa. That's the way I'm seeing it, but it's my understanding, I didn't see anything that it was submitted to West Contra Costa. The only document I saw was signed by your school. So I don't know if it went to West Contra Costa. Maybe you want to clarify that.
It did not go to West Contra Costa.
Okay.
We did not believe it was a material revision to the charter.
I'm sorry, what was the rest of that?
That we did not believe it was a material revision to the charter.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, I think that that's a pretty important point, and it's surprising. I understand volunteers, but to go down to 3 is surprising, and especially, you know, this is 6 schools that you have and a sizable budget. So,
well, let me explain. The reason why it was reduced to 3 was because we had the death of one of our board members. We had some resignations, and we could not function as an operating school unless we had 3 as a minimum number of board members. If we did not have 3 as a minimum number of board members, we simply could not function. So we took that as an opportunity to reduce it in order for us to comply with the Brown Act and to function as an ongoing entity. That is why it was reduced. If it was possible for us to maintain the 5, we would have done that, but we couldn't do that. And so we did not reduce it, we just couldn't function. And that's why we reduced it.
okay, now you have, in terms of your active board members, it looks like you have but 5, but one of them, it says currently on leave.
Correct, Maribel Gonzalez.
So you have 4 that are actively participating. How long is she on leave until?
We believe another 2 months. Her mother is gravely ill in Los Angeles.
Ah, I see, okay. All right, so that's my question about the board. Then I also have some other questions on other topics. I agree with my fellow trustee about wanting complete budget information. Knowing that your board oversees all of the schools and that John Henry is just part of that, I'd like to see the same 5 years back on the AMETHOD budget, because that's overseeing all of John Henry, and that's very important. I did look in the school accountability report card, and I saw there's a place where it says the % of your budget that goes toward teacher salaries, and it's much lower than I would have expected. It's stated, I think, 27%. This is last year's because they're not that up to date.
Yeah.
I think it said 27%, and knowing that typical public schools, it's approximately 80 or 85% of the budget that goes towards salary and benefits for all the employees. So when I see 27%, that's very low, and just makes me wonder how's the whole organization working with that lower percentage there.
Okay.
And I'd love to know more information on why there's majority of the budget's going to the other professional development, and other professional development's important, but there's contracts in those other categories that's very not typical with public school budgets. And then I would also appreciate the credentialing information, which I'm sure we're going to get from our staff. And also I'd like to have more information on the English language, the students who are the English language learners, and the different levels of English language learners and how you're teaching them, whether they're brand new English language learners versus higher level English language learners, what the curriculum is, who's teaching them, how often they have,
Integrated designated support.
that support. And then as well, the special ed situation, the same thing, the special ed teachers, et cetera. So,
Okay.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Dr. Allen?
The good thing is that both of them asked most of my questions.
That's good.
So thank you both. I really want the data on special education, so I want to see the breakdown of the students with physical disabilities, social-emotional disabilities, and how they performed over the 4 years. So we have the data for demographic data, but we don't really get a sense of the students with special needs because that seems to be disproportionate to many of the school districts. So that's one thing that I would like to see. And there was a second thing I can't remember, but and then in terms of your board, did you provide documentation for all 4 years, your board composition? Because I know they said the term is 4 years, which means that the board members would either they're just transitioning because you're year 5, right? So they would have just transitioned. So what was the composition of your board? Like, who are the founding parents? Because it doesn't seem like you have any parents now. So what happened to the parents that started on the board? Maybe I'm a little confused because it doesn't seem like when I inquired, when Trustee Lewis first inquired about the board composition and the parents, there was one parent who was on a board 2 years ago, who started on a board 2 years ago, but you said the school was founded by the parents. So why weren't they on a board?
Yeah, so what I mean by it was founded by parents, we started with our schools in Oakland, AMETHOD Public Schools, with Oakland Charter High School, Oakland Charter Academy, so we started off there. And then AMETHOD, we founded Richmond Charter Academy, which was the middle school that's right now in Richmond. And then after, when we were graduating 8th graders, so those parents were the ones who they came down to Oakland, and they were talking to me. I was the vice principal at Oakland Charter High School at the time. So they came down to Oakland, they were talking to us, and they were asking how they could how they could start a high school in Richmond. They wanted students going from RCA, Richmond Charter Academy, to a high school that would provide a similar education pathway from what we were providing at Oakland Charter High School. So we spent a year. I live in Richmond. I actually, my neighbors are some of my students. And that year, when we had the first graduating class, 8th grade class at RCA, they enrolled at Oakland Charter High School because they didn't want to enroll at one of their, the traditional public school that they had available to them. So they enrolled at Oakland Charter High School, and we were making the commute every day. We would take BART from Richmond BART station all the way to downtown Oakland with a group of students. And then based on that year, they started organizing. They wanted to open up the high school. So they began meeting with the CEO at the time, and then the board members who were there at the time, who were serving for AMETHOD Public Schools. So that's how the vision of John Henry came about. And right now we do have a community outreach. We actually have 2 community outreach coordinators. One of them works primarily with the schools in Oakland. The other one, Gabby Gutierrez, she works primarily with the schools in Richmond. And she is basically to connect, that connection that happens between parents, between board members, obviously us at the school as administrators, as teachers, whenever parents go, I always make myself available. What do you need? Hi, how are you? Or like I said, I see them at the store because I live in the neighborhood. So yes, that's how John Henry came about. And the existing board members were already there for AMETHOD Public Schools.
Well, it seems like you have capacity for parents because it's stated according to the bylaws that you can have up to 11. Mm-hmm. So it seems like the parents who wanted the school mm-hmm. should have been able to serve as board members of the school mm-hmm. because you have the capacity to for them to be appointed to the school. Mm-hmm. So when you say that they founded the school, mm-hmm. when you're a founder, usually you still serve, you're on a board of directors, mm-hmm. you're engaged mm-hmm. at that level, like you're part of the decision making. Mm-hmm. So it just seems, I don't know, it's confusing. I'm bemused when you say that they found the school when in actuality they didn't mm-hmm. because they didn't serve in a leadership position in mm-hmm. cultivating the school culture, providing leadership. Mm-hmm. They haven't done that. Okay, right?
We call them founding parents, and the students who were there at the beginning, we call them founding students. Okay. Just the same that we call our teachers who started off founding teachers. So that's the reason why I pointed it out in that way.
Point of clarification, Dr. Allen, I did not fully capture your first request for information about academics. Can you repeat that?
So my question was for special education data. So the students, based upon their disability, so whether it's a physical disability, a social emotional disability, whatever the different types, how they're categorized in Ed Code. So that's what, and how they performed over the past 4 or 5 years while they've been in operation.
Thank you.
Mr. Maxwell, did you have a question?
To follow up with what we talked about board, it seems like board is a hot topic. The report from West Contra Costa spoke of your EL enrollment being down, but the petition that you submitted shows mm-hmm. pretty clearly that your graph shows pretty clearly that your EL enrollment is up. Mm-hmm. So I guess I just need clarification on how that could be so different.
Yes, and it's because the RFEP students, so reclassified fluent English proficiency students, we have a huge population of students who are coming in as RFEP. The graph that the district provides is the one just taking into account English language learners as they currently are identified in that year of census data for CalPADS. And yes, you see a downwards, and then this year, this academic year, we're seeing an upwards trend once again.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. One more follow-up question? Dr. Allen?
So I have one other request in terms of data is attrition. So in addition to the disaggregated special education data, also the attrition for your school. Thanks.
I'm glad you brought that up, Trustee Allen. I just wanted to add, we had a lot of conversation about that at a previous meeting of another school. So I think it's really important that we get real numbers on that. How many students left which year? How many students did you have at the beginning of the year? How many students did you have at the end of the year? What grades? How many left? And do you know, any more details about that? I'd really appreciate that.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can have a seat. So members of the public who would like to speak in support or opposition to this petition will now have an opportunity to speak. I ask that each speaker keep his or her comment to 2 minutes so we can accommodate all who wish to speak. The timekeeper will give a speaker a 30-second warning. Do we have, want to have call 10 names or?
Yes, I'll call 10 at a time, and you can line up behind the podium in this order. Can you guys hear me? Linda Delgado, Edgar Quiros, Gilbert Lopez, Jorge Lopez, Tammy Campbell, Maureen Toms, Rosita Curiel, Noel Gallo, Dan Romero, Dan Walton, and finally, Gabby Rodriguez for this 10.
Good evening. My name is Linda Delgado. I am with West Contra Costa Unified. I'm fighting a terrible cold, so forgive me if my voice comes and goes. During the period from November 2017 to the present, the district has engaged with the AMETHOD organization through notices of concern, violation, and inquiry. The recurrence of issues outlined in the findings of fact led the board to support a refusal to renew the charter in a 4-to-1 vote. The findings included that the English language learner had serious programmatic deficiencies. It was inadequately described in the initial petition, which is the petition that you are required to review. Staff turnover that led to 5 different teachers handling the ELD for this year alone. Continuously falling ELD enrollment over 5 years, suggesting that parents are leaving. There are ongoing special education failures. The NOV called out these failures, and AMPS was forced to play catch-up on owed minutes. Frequent staffing changes from the CMO lead all the way through the on-site staff have been very disruptive in the provision of special education. A letter from the Disability Rights Education and Defense Fund stated that at least 10 families reported being counseled out. Since then, the office at West Contra Costa for transfers has reported to me at my request that 4 other families have come to them stating that they were counseled out. The school, actually the CMO, is demonstrably unlikely to implement the program. Over the last 5 years, the central office has lost 15 individuals, 3 special education directors, 2 directors of talent, the COO, the CAO, the CFO, and directors of finance, systems, and assorted others. 27 site leaders have left or were fired, including 4 from John Henry High School, 5 from RCA, and 5 from Benito Juarez. They've lost 13 teachers, and this year alone, 12 teachers have left or were fired. We ask you to support the board's motion to deny the charter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Edgar Quiros, and I have the privilege of serving as the current president of AMETHOD Public School. I had some prepared statements speaking directly regarding board governance, so I'd just like to read those. Some of those may have already been answered. AMPS is governed by a fully voluntary board of directors. As such, we have periods of time during which our turnover is very low and periods of times that saw higher rates of turnover. Our board did recently amend the bylaws to reduce the number of board members needed to 3. This was not done because we would like to operate with such a small board. This was because the need to meet quorum in order to conduct business. Our members were reduced as, sadly, one of our board members passed away, the other one is dealing with a very ill parent. Our goal is to have no fewer than 5 board members. At our December 16th board meeting, we added 2 additional board members, and we are actively seeking additional qualified candidates willing to serve. Lastly, we are proud to note that we have historically had a very engaged and qualified board members, including a former Richmond City Council member, a former administrator for the San Pablo Economic Development Corporation, a member of the El Cerrito NAACP, and currently a retired executive of Kaiser Permanente and a retired Richmond Police Department senior officer. Our board functions based on the responsibility as fiduciaries and based on the recommendations made to them by staff. Our board considers the information presented to them and the overall impact and recommendations would have on the organization before making a determination. As such, with the West Contra Costa School District Board, our board is there to govern, not manage. AMPS is, of course, happy to report any changes in the board composition as some unavoidable changes occur since the time of the John Henry submission. It is also important to note that AMPS does indeed attempt to be transparent as a governance. And just to show the demonstration of parents.
Thank you.
Parents, please stand up for a second. Show who you are.
I'd like to remind you of the 2 minutes speaker's time, please.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Gilbert Lopez, and I recently joined the AMETHOD Public Schools Board of Directors. Prior to joining the board, I dedicated nearly 30 years of my life to public service, retiring as a police lieutenant just over a year ago. During the vetting process for the board position, I researched local, state, and national issues affecting public education, especially charter school. Through this research, I found a number of commonalities with my former law enforcement profession. Some of those commonalities include investigating and gathering facts to prove or disprove a criminal allegation, or, with regard to education, researching, gathering data, for example, to determine the best teaching methods. I also learned that AMPS places a high value in fair and equal treatment for all, and in working toward the greater good of society. As part of my research also, I compared and contrasted the outputs, if you will, of John Henry High School with those of nearby public high schools, and, well, as you've seen already, the facts clearly indicate that John Henry outperforms local public high schools across nearly every educational metric. Researching further, I discovered several facts, quote unquote, as to why AMP schools perform at a higher level. One, both students and staff are held to higher standards, and two, the strong belief in the continuous improvement and of administrators and staff. To paraphrase Mr. Jim Collins, a high-performance researcher and author, the AMPS system confronts the brutal facts, quote unquote, and while pursuing the highest caliber of education for the greater good of their students and families. Conclusion, while I fully understand that no individual or organization is perfect, based upon facts, I firmly believe that the AMPS charter school system, including John Henry High School, is a high-performing organization because of the above-average dedication of students, families, and staff, and I respectfully request this board grant John Henry High School school certification renewal. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm Jorge Lopez. I'm trying to hold it together. I'm the founder and former CEO of the system. I'm from Richmond, California, born and raised. I was thrown out of Richmond High School. To me, it was always personal. It was always about giving back home. And so over the last few years, this business for me has shifted, and I have shifted with it. It used to be about innovation. It used to be about student data. It used to be about family. Now it's about external, and now it's about adult issues. Now, I don't mean that to say of anybody here. I'm just saying of what I felt in my last year as I transitioned out of the CEO role. And so I thought I was burned out. I am burned out, but I tried and I fought to stay within AMPS as much as I could. But you know, 30 years ago, my mother fought for me to get out of Richmond. I was out of school for 3 months. She gave up guardianship of me to one of her clients. My mom's a maid, so I can have a Berkeley address to go to Berkeley High School. A 10th grade dropout from Richmond. My mother is fighting for her life right now. And so you never know why things happen. But I need to be with my mother. But the school is for my mother, for me. Thank you.
Board, I just have a couple of things. I support West Contra Costa Unified School District's decision If a local school board deems a school is not up to educational standards, what message does it send to your constituents when you overrule this local governing body? And it's a proven fact that charter schools negatively impact school district budgets. Given the financial crisis in WCCUSD, the continued support of failing charter school will only impact the budget for 25,000 plus students in the WCCUSD schools. I want to also point out, when you get the data for financial, you might want to figure out, why is it that the teachers' salaries are only 27% of the budget? Maybe the fact that 2 administrators total are $500,000 total, and in actuality, our school, and that's only, what, 2,200 students, whereas the superintendent of our school district makes $250,000, $60,000, and he's got 28,000 students. So I'm not seeing the equity here. Everybody knows that 85% of a school's budget is labor and it's teachers. And I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room. And that elephant in the room is diversity. So speaking as a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer at the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, a member of a team that believes in diversity, I look at the percentage of diverse population in the school as not diverse. I believe that you need to have a mixture of children together, learning together, to bring new ideas and bring different backgrounds to becoming whole adults. And I'm a proud graduate of Kennedy High School in Richmond, and am bringing programs to Kennedy, Richmond, and Pinole Valley High School in engineering academies and IT academies. So we have good schools too.
Go Eagles!
My name is Maureen Toms, and I'm a resident of West Contra Costa Unified School District area. I have previously served 6 years on the Citizens Bond Oversight Board, so I'm very familiar with the function of the school district. I'm urging you to uphold the decision of the school district, and please respect our local governance. I also want to note that some of the board members have requested that additional information be forwarded to you, so it sounds like you're going to continue the consideration of this until you get that information. I would just request that a link to an answer of those questions be included in the staff report, especially the budget. I too am alarmed that only 27% of the total budget is spent on teachers. There's something wrong there. Where is the rest of the money going? Is it going into lease payments for a site? Is it going into administration? Where? So I would like to see the budget information, and I suggest that you provide an opportunity for yourselves to review that information before you make a decision. Thank you.
Excuse me, just wanted to ask a question of Deputy Superintendent Clark. All the information that we receive will be posted at a future date at our next meeting anyway, right? This is in regards to the request for the additional data be made available to the public.
That is the practice of the county office of council.
So I just wanted to make sure we have that on record. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board, members of the public. It's an honor to be here with you. My name is Noel Gayu. I grew up in Oakland, live in Oakland, and I've served on the Board of Education of Oakland Unified for 20 years. And I'm currently on my 8th year as an Oakland City Council member. So I understand the political movement, I understand the personal reasons why we as adults get in the way of the development of our children's education. I see it in Oakland, I certainly read about it in Contra County right now. And certainly another location. I grew up in Oakland, so I understand the challenges of public schools, and today many of our kids are still failing. And they happen to be brown kids and black kids that are failing. And the reason why I'm here today, because I was one of the founding members when we first created the charter school in Oakland. And the reason why we created the charter school, it came from the parents' initiative. Their direction, the young kids couldn't walk from their elementary school to the middle school because there would be a assaulted, beat up, and they can do well in school. So that's what we created, the first charter school, and it was number 5 in the state of California. And I want to express my gratitude to the teachers that are working there, to the student body, because in Oakland, the high school that I have in my district is a national distinguished high school. These are black and brown kids going to that high school, but you know what? They're all going to universities and colleges when they graduate. Now, how many schools, public schools, can you say are placing 90% of their student body? I believe in education, and in our American society, education is number 1. It is a priority, so I got to have these students succeed so one day they can have a job and be able to pay for my Social Security. So I need them to work.
There's a lot of people in here. We need to keep to the 2-minute rule, and if you'll keep your applause down to really none, it would be great, because we want to get as many people speaking as possible, and it will not happen if it continues like that. So, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Dan Romero. I'm a Berkeley citizen, West County resident of over 45 years. I am currently the 9-year councilman and 3-time mayor of Hercules. I'm here tonight to ask the board to offer the renewal for John Henry High School. Currently in West Contra Costa Unified School District, last week they just announced 250 teachers will be receiving pink slips in March. That means the school district is in debt. They announced that they're $40 million in debt for this year. They've announced that they're going to be $47 million in debt in next year's budget. Now is not the time to send these children back into the public schools. The state legislature passed years ago the public education code that allows charter schools to be publicly funded. It is now the time to do this. State legislature said that we wanted public schools and charter schools to be available so that the parents had an option to have their kids go to education. Please renew this option. I also will offer my services up as a council member, and I will proudly sit on this board if they need a person. I bring my reputation, my leadership, but more importantly, for the students. If this school is having a problem with the board of directors, I will proudly serve for them. It allows me to do another sector of it. I'll still carry my job with the school, with City of Hercules, but if that's what you want, local leaders, that's where I'm at right now. Thank you very much.
Members of the board and Deputy Superintendent, I'm Dan Walden, a resident of Walnut Creek, and I speak in support of the John Henry High School petition appeal. My commitment to public education and high-quality education for all children has been at the heart of my community work since I joined my local school board in 1988, serving in that capacity for 22 years. I am very familiar with AMETHOD Public Schools and Jorge Lopez, with whom I served on the board of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for Contra Costa County. I worked with AMPS when they wanted external facilitation to strengthen their board governance around the Brown Act, Principles of Effective Governance, and Strategic Planning. They recognized that at the heart of their remarkable success was the culture they had established that placed students first in all decisions. They wanted to build their leadership capacity to ensure that as they grew, they did so in a manner that honored their culture and continued their record of excellence in instruction, student success, and college acceptance rates. My first impression of AMETHOD Public Schools was what I saw on the wall in Oakland. Their motto for students and staff alike: honor hard work. I visited John Henry High School in its first year of operation. The spirit of teamwork and collaboration was evident everywhere I looked. Mr. Lopez, Mr. Baca, and the staff have developed a solid community of success. Mr. Lopez's response for the West Contra Costa allegations reflect the organization I know. They have created an exceptional environment that celebrates learning and inspires student hopes and hard work for their future. I ask that this board approve the renewal petition appeal before you, permit John Henry High School to continue its service to the community and to public education, and demonstrate your support for the stability of this strong education program. Thank you.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Rosalba. Y soy la mamá de Francisco, que actualmente está estudiando en el 8º grado.
And I'm Francisco's mother, and he's currently an 8th grade student
Que espera asistir a la escuela secundaria John Henry.
who would like to go to John Henry High School.
Nos encanta tener a John Henry School como parte de nuestra comunidad.
We are very happy that John Henry High School is part of our community.
Estoy aquí porque hoy quería expresar lo mucho que nuestros padres están sintiendo en nuestro vecindario.
I'm here today because I'd like to express what I know is the feeling of many of the parents from our neighborhood.
Necesitamos a John Henry School y queremos que siga siendo un beneficio no solo para nuestros hijos, sino también para futuros estudiantes como mi hijo.
We need John Henry High School, and we want it to continue so that it will benefit not just our children, but future students like my son as well.
He conocido a muchos padres con niños que asistieron en esta escuela secundaria y se fueron a estudiar a una gran universidad.
I have met many parents with children who attended this high school and went on to study at famous universities,
Un logro enorme que cambia la vida.
which is an enormous accomplishment and a life changer.
He visitado la escuela y he conocido a maestros y personal de la escuela.
I have visited the school and I have met teachers and school personnel,
Y he hecho un esfuerzo por atender el entorno en que mi hijo eventualmente estudiará
and I have made an effort to understand the surroundings and the place where my son will eventually become a student
a conferencias y talleres.
and where he will be attending conferences and workshops.
Así de comprometidos estamos yo y muchos padres de familia
This is the degree to which I myself and many other parents are committed to John Henry.
Estamos involucrados antes incluso de tener un niño inscrito en esa escuela.
We become involved even before one of our children goes to study at that school.
Sabemos el valor
We know what it's worth, its value.
y creo firmemente que John Henry preparará a los estudiantes
And I firmly believe that John Henry will prepare its students
para explorar sus intereses.
so that they can explore their interests.
Mi hijo tiene una gran pasión por la informática
My son has an enormous interest in computers,
y quiero que tenga un espacio donde sea desafiado y ser lo mejor y pueda hacerlo.
and I want him to be in a challenging space where he can improve and where he can achieve that.
John Henry proporcionará la base sólida para que los estudiantes tengan una educación de alta calidad.
John Henry will provide a solid base so that students have a high-quality education
Y un camino para tener éxito como jóvenes profesionales.
and a pathway so that they will be successful professionals.
Por favor, no le quiten esa oportunidad a nuestros hijos.
Please do not deny our children this opportunity.
Les pido apoyo en la renovación de esta escuela en nombre de mi hijo e innumerables estudiantes que vienen atrás de ellos.
I ask you to support the renewal of the school in the name of my son and countless students who will follow. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much.
I'd like the people that are standing to fill out a speaker card and have a seat. We're going in order if your name is big.
Yeah, if I may, their parents are standing with me because of what I'm about to say.
But has your name been called?
Yes, it has. My name is Gabriela Rodriguez.
Do you have her speaker card?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to keep, and please keep the clapping and everything down so we can hear the speakers.
Let me tell you, our parents are very passionate about our school. That's why they're clapping, and that's why they're here. They're here from far from Richmond. They're here because they want our school to be open. So for you to say that, it's a little disrespectful for them to come out and show their support. Good evening, board members. I'm sorry. My name is Gabriela Rodriguez. I am a parent at John Henry, and I work for John Henry, but I stand here as a parent. To be respectful with your time, I have several parents' letters that may not be here, that are here. They took the time. But we want you guys to see, and I hope you take the time to read their letters and why they want this school to be open. I know one of the things that they brought up was diversity. I don't see any translators here. Another thing, diversity. We cannot choose who, the school does not choose who comes into the school. We are under a lottery. So whoever's on the lottery, that's who is going to get chosen. We cannot go out and get more people from other ethnicities. Please, listen to our parents. They're here. Our students are here. They want a better future, a future that they know and is being proven that the district schools are not going to give them. Yes, there's some people that may have that, but yet the majority of our Latinos families are not going to get that further out. Right now, a lot of our students are in colleges, universities. Please keep the school open. Can I approach you with your letters? Thank you. The next 10, Peter Hanley. I'm sorry, yes? Are you Rosita Curio?
No, I'm Mrs. Guadalupe.
Okay, I haven't called that name yet. Sorry about that. Peter Hanley, Dan Romero,
Again?
Anselmo Ramirez, Jeff Robinette, Dan Walden, Nyla Gonzalez, Philip Chong, Manuel Vasquez, and Sam Eaton.
I've already introduced myself. I'm Peter Hanley. I'm current board member of AMETHOD, and also speaking as a fellow elected board member. I'm in my 5th term on the San Mateo Union High School District Board. We've covered several things that I was already going to say. I think we probably share a number of things that are objectives and experiences. And you know, I'm a charter school authorizer also. I've advocated for changes in schools to improve outcomes. You know, I think we have similar experiences. I've served on, county board, school board associations. I've been the president. I've been in the delegate assembly. I've completed the Masters of Governance. So I come to you with that kind of experience, and that's the experience that I brought to the AMETHOD board in April of 2013. So I served as president for 3 years there, and vice president for another year, and left in June of 2018 after 5 years. So that board operated very much under CSBA guidelines and CSBA principles. So it was a very high performing board, and I rejoined last month. And so those principles, you know, govern that board, and I'm quite confident they continue to do so. So I think that's important for you to understand, and that's what I want you to keep in mind. Thank you.
Hello. Good evening, board and deputy superintendent. My name is Gustavo Ramirez. I'm a resident of Richmond, a former employee of the school district and other nonprofit organizations, so I have some experience in that field. I'm here to speak in support of the renewal of John Henry High School. You know, I think that it's clear today that the school has the support of the parents and families. They're here, present, making it known that they would like for the school to be open. They're afraid for their students, for their children, where they're going to go next year if the school's closed. And it's not the board who will lose if the school closes, it's the families that are here today. And so let's make this about the youth, the students, the families, and not the board. Now, we do understand that they do have an effect on the school and the number of schools that they run, but that's not who's going to lose. And so let's make this about choice, right? Not public schools versus charter schools. We know how that is a big deal right now. But let's make this about quality education. And the numbers show, they show that the rate of students going on to college from John Henry it outranks the schools in the area. So, I mean, let's make the right decision. I know it's in your hands and it's a tough decision to make, but I do encourage you to renew. Thank you.
Good evening, board. My name is Manuel Vasquez. I'm a member of the California Charter School Association's advocacy team. On behalf of my org, I strongly urge you to approve the renewal of John Henry. I echo my fellow speaker's sentiments of support, but I'm here to speak to you of data. With a 94% four-year college acceptance rate and over 90% of students graduating having met A through D requirements, John Henry's academic outcomes clearly support the renewal of the school's charter as is currently outlined under the law. In comparison to both the state and West Contra Costa Unified School District as a whole, 56% of the school's English language students are progressing towards English language proficiency, compared to the state average of 48% and only 45% for West Contra Costa Unified. When compared to the West Contra Costa Unified operated schools that John Henry High School students would have otherwise attended, the margin is even wider, with just 34% at Kennedy High School and 35% at Richmond High School. This data is a clear indicator that the EL program at John Henry High School is comprehensive and effective. John Henry High School serves as an important exemplar for similar schools and school districts seeking to improve educational outcomes for Latinx students. This school's academic performance and progress have met and exceeded all requirements for renewal. Current law requires you to weigh these factors as the most important factor in making your decision tonight. Again, I strongly urge you to approve the renewal of John Henry High School tonight, and I thank you for your time and support.
Hello, my name is Nyla Gonzalez. I am currently a senior and I have been in the charter school system for 5 years. It has not been an easy journey, but no journey to excel is. In John Henry High School, I have learned anhelar el esfuerzo académico, to honor hard work. Please don't take the opportunity from incoming students. If you look around, you see a community that believes John Henry is making a change. Keep John Henry open. I want to be able to come back and see my teachers and underclass students. Because we are a family. Please don't separate this family. Thank you.
Good evening, trustees. My name is Philip Chung. I live in Richmond, and I teach math at John Henry. I'd like to address some of the things that make teachers effective at John Henry. First off is the training and the support that the teachers get. Many teachers at schools are used to when they see an administrator walk in the room, they have an oh no feeling like something they're being rated to be kept or let go. When I see my admin walk in, I think they're going to look and help reflect later on what went right, what went wrong, and how I can improve specific concrete measures and further support if needed. They give me advice and encouragement on what to do if I have difficulties with students. School's small enough, we often know particular students and particular specific advice. Also things like how to de-escalate things so it doesn't lead into a referral to the office. We don't like to send students to the office, but we also don't have students who continually disrupt the classroom. So we're able to keep learning occurring. And other things, we don't have annual contracts, so they treat effective teachers and it's not working out. They make sure that the students get teachers who are effective. And lastly, there's been a lot to do about what budget's going to the teacher salary. I know what my current value is, and I don't feel I'm being underpaid. Thank you.
Would you show the next 10? Do you have the next 10? After that, so they can get ready, yeah. But now.
Okay, the next 10, if it sounds like your name, please come up. Some of these I can read. Escuela Macias, Anissa Itabong, Gerardo Espinoza, Dulce Bernal, Forrest Borey, Hartley Saravia, or Harvey or Henry, Pedro Rocha, Eric Becker, Charito Zapata, and Miguel Lopez. Thank you.
Hello again. Just to remind you, my name is Sam Eaton. I teach social studies at John Henry. And I wanted to just speak to a few things. I second a lot of what my colleague Phil Chung just said concerning training, concerning salary. I do not feel at all that I'm underpaid at John Henry. That is secondary to the work I do. Like I mentioned, I value public education. I am a product of public education here in Pleasant Hill. I went to Pleasant Hill Elementary. I did a school play right on that stage that you're standing in front of. I went down to Pleasant Hill Middle School. I went to College Park. I went to the UCs to get my bachelor's and master's degree at Davis and Santa Cruz. So again, I value public education. But I also know the history of our country. I teach history, and I understand why I come from immense privilege, even being in a sort of middle class growing up. For many of my students, they do not have the privileges that I had in education and in their socioeconomic background. So as other speakers have mentioned, I would really encourage you to take that into account. In our school, we are providing a good education. And for these kids, not to speak ill of a public school, but for these kids, they need a good education, and it's not the public school's fault that they cannot provide it for those kids. For my students, I teach a lot of seniors, they're getting into colleges. Now that you just saw is getting into college slowly, not her first choice quite yet, but we're hoping for it. So I just wanted to speak to that and say that, you know, I believe in the school. I don't think that charters are a solution to all our problems. We're not a perfect school. No perfect school exists. But I do believe in John Henry, and I will speak to that. Lastly, I teach local governments in my school. I encourage my students to participate in local government. When I was in high school, I thought voting was the only way you could participate, but I did not have to come and advocate for my school every single month and beg that my school stayed open. Thank you for your time. I hope you support John Henry.
Good evening, board. My name is Gerardo Espinoza. I'm a lifelong resident of Richmond. Bought my house in Richmond. I'm a product of Richmond schools, graduated from Kennedy. I have two older sons who also graduated from Richmond schools. And it would be untruthful if people who went to the school would tell you that it's been great. It has not. That the current financial crisis is not the first time it's happened in West Contra Costa. Now, growing through the school system, I never knew about charter schools until recently. My two girls, a 5th grader and an 8th grader, come from the Catholic high school, Catholic school system. And I can tell you they're being tested more now than they were before. Their teachers, their curriculum, is what I always monitor. Now, looking forward to John Henry High School, that was our plan. That's what we wanted. We liked the campus. And let me tell you, as a law enforcement professional, who's now retired, sorry, I think, the environment is the best I could imagine for. So now you are pushing these kids, my kids especially also, to areas where, well, reality, it's not the best, it's not the safest. It's just the way it is, unfortunately, sometimes. And with the curriculum that doesn't push the kids as much in general. Now, as the other campus, school and the campus is smaller, and maybe that's what I like. Now, I hope that you consider overturning the prior ruling. It's not the first time things happen like this. That's in our system. You know what I mean? That's why they hire courts that overrule lower courts. So many different reasons. So I was a lifelong resident, as a parent of the RCA kid in BJE, who are looking forward to continue on the platform to John Henry. I would like to, hopefully you guys reconsider and grant the charter. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dulce Bernal and I'm the mother of two kids, Adrian Bernal and David Bernal. David is a 5th grader at Benito Juarez Elementary School and Adrian is attending 11th grade at John Henry High School. I wanted to ask you to please consider it to open the school and keep it open. I wanted to ask you for a minute to remember when you was an 11th grader, how excited you are to become a senior, and how stressful it is for you guys to start applying for universities. My son is a 4.0 student. He wanted to become a doctor and he wanted to assist New York University. At this time, imagine for yourself and set yourself into our kids, 11th grade students. Try to imagine how you feel, be an 11th grader and knowing that you don't know your school going to be open or not, and you wanted to become a doctor, you wanted to success in life, and you don't know that you will be accomplished this because some people doesn't care about you. If these kids are your kids, would you want the best for them? I think you will do. I don't think you will put your kids in a school that you know they're going to fail. John Henry High School is proving it. There is a better school than the district school, and this is not their fault. The only fault is from the district because they don't provide a good quality education. And we as a parent, we choose, and we have the right to choose which school they can go. I wanted this school to be kept open for my other son. I want my little David to have the same opportunities that Adrian have. And I just wanted to tell you one thing. We're not in a plantation anymore. As schools, our education is our choice and our privilege and our right. Thank you.
My name is Azucena Madrid Macias. I'm a senior at John Henry High School. I will graduate this year, but I have friends who will still be attending this school in the future. And most of the students at the school are ambitious and don't want to end up at any other school as our academic levels continuously surpass theirs. Our school may be small, but we are one of the top scoring schools in the district. I have been around since Richmond Charter Academy, and since RCA, we are constantly coming to these board meetings, and there hasn't been a year in which we don't show up to fight to keep our school open. This is because this school has taught me valuable lessons in which I will use in the future and even in college. We come from Richmond, and it's crazy to think that we can attend a school in Richmond that has the same rigorous levels of academics as a school in Orinda and Walnut Creek. This is probably the best opportunity for someone who lives in Richmond. Thank you. Keep John Henry open. Hi, my name is Denisa. I am a senior at John Henry High. Shutting the school down won't do anything but affect other high schools and our students. Dealing with the removal of the schools can affect us in the students' credits and their future. From my experience, the school has motivated me to do my best, to do things I didn't expect I had the potential to. Teachers from this school has always motivated me to expand my knowledge and education. I would also like to give a special thanks to my 2 college advisors for believing in me. For this, I have gotten accepted to 3 colleges within the span of 3.5 months. For my 6.5 years of being in the AMETHOD program, we have worked as a family to create a better and safer learning environment for ourselves and for the community. In addition to this, I have a folder filled with letters from my colleagues addressing that they want to keep the schools. May I approach you? Okay. Thank you. Oh, and these are my seniors. Okay. Thank you.
Buenas noches, yo soy la madre de Catherine Alfaro de la escuela John Henry. Mi hija tiene problemas de aprendizaje y en la escuela me le han ayudado a sobrellevar y con un asesor hemos avanzado mucho, cosa que en otras escuelas me lo negaron.
I'm a mother of Catherine Alfaro, who's a student at John Henry High School, and my daughter has learning disabilities, and I've been supported at John Henry, and with someone who was assigned for this purpose, we've been able to achieve things that we wouldn't have been able to do at a public school.
Y me gustaría pues, que no le cierren la oportunidad a mi hija de seguir aprendiendo.
And I would like that you don't close off this opportunity for my daughter to continue to learn.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Pedro Rocha. Tengo a mi hija, se llama Jenny Rocha, en Richmond High, en John Henry High School. No me gusta que vaya a Richmond High. Hay mucha violencia en esa escuela. Gracias a Ms. Villa, Ms. López, a mi hijo que estudió en John Henry, se graduó de John Henry y está en Cal Poly.
Good evening, my name is Pedro Rocha, and I have a child, Hermione Rocha, who studies in John Henry High School. I don't want my child to go to Richmond High School. There's a lot of violence there. And thanks to Ms. Villa and Mr. Lopez, I have a son who studied at John Henry, and now he's at Poly.
Gracias a esta escuela y el soporte que le dan a los estudiantes, mi hijo pudo agarrar una beca completa y esperemos que mi hija, que está en el grado 10, tenga la misma suerte de terminar en John Henry.
And thanks to this school, my son, who studied in this school, was able to get a full scholarship. And we hope that my daughter, who's now in 10th grade, can be as lucky and can study in John Henry.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Forrest Boring. I teach world history, human geography. Last year I taught English 9, and I also have a garden advisor at our school. I'm here to tally myself in support of our school. I wanted to address quickly a few things that were brought up earlier. One of them is about, I see a lot of this as a class issue. I don't think that John Henry is the solution to the financial problems in the district. Our school's mission, I don't know if you're all familiar with it, but it's to get traditionally underserved students into college. That's something I could definitely get behind, I could dedicate my life to that. I'm wondering a little bit what type of community voice you want us to have other than this. What else can we do? So, no doubt our school is not perfect. And I think if you talk to the teachers here and everybody went and visited our school, we could probably come up on our own with a few ways that we could improve it. Nevertheless, it's not worth shutting down. We have a great thing going on. We've shown consistent improvement, and we're not asking for an extension for like 6 years like WASC gave us. We are just asking for 5 more years. Let us show you what we can do in 5 more years. We're showing progress. Let us continue that trajectory. So there are a lot of seniors here that shows you that even the students are leaving. They still very much care about our school. And I think it's doubtless that we definitely deserve to show ourselves 5 more years. Give us some stipulations if you want, and let us uphold those to the best of our ability. And thank you for your ear, and thank you. You might not realize, but you bring us closer together as a community as well. So,
hello, my name is Herdy Sarabia, and I'm going to speak towards my friend, my really good friend. His name is Chris Nixon. He's very special to me, and he went through a lot of struggles, and I see everybody here as family. Like, I can tell who is who. Like, I know a lot, and I want to keep this positive energy. And this is what he has to say. I do have one question to ask. Why do you want to close my school then? For it's doing better for me, and also the community. You're not going to find other schools like John Henry High School. I know because I'm a transfer student. I attended John F. Kennedy High School. Now, Kennedy is not a totally bad school. To be honest, it's nothing but a social school. It doesn't have strong academics. It doesn't have people that really care about them. I recall a time when I had multiple Fs, and they just passed me through with no questions asked. I didn't receive the proper help that I should have received. To top that, I didn't even feel safe because there were fights, gangs, and students even died. I remember that I talked to a bright kid, and the next day he was almost gunned down. I don't want an education to cost me my life. I don't want an education that I have to struggle because no one helps me for John Henry provides that help. And second, I don't want anyone thinking that John Henry High School is a public charter school, is trying to take anything away. We just want equality and opportunity for us to succeed. As a student sitting in the chair every day, I have a right to fight for what is mine because it's my future. And in your hands, what do you think of us as rich kids? Because, thank you.
Gracias, buenas noches. Mi nombre es Miguel López y tengo un hijo en la high school de John Henry High School en el 11º grado.
Good evening, my name is Miguel Lopez and I have a son at John Henry High School who's in 11th grade.
Yo vengo de un país donde la educación es un peligro y aquí en este país la educación es lo básico.
I come from a country where education is a danger, and here in this country, the education is something that's basic.
Este país se ha caracterizado por ser un país de oportunidades. Desde fuera de Estados Unidos se ve como un país lleno de oportunidades.
This country is characterized by being a country of opportunities. Here in the United States, it's seen as full of opportunities.
Por favor, sigamos con esta tendencia de dar oportunidades, porque si no hay educación, este país no sería lo que es.
Please, let's continue with this trend of giving opportunities, because without education, this country wouldn't be what it is.
Mi hijo ha tenido la oportunidad de tener becas, se ha ido a las universidades de Houston, en Maryland, de New Jersey y en Santa Cruz.
My son has had opportunities. He's gotten scholarships. He's gone to the universities in Brisbane, in Maryland, New Jersey, Santa Cruz.
Y ahorita está peleando por una beca para ir a Japón.
And right now he's fighting for a scholarship to go to Japan.
En mi país no podría pasar esto. Y en las escuelas de mi comunidad como la Richmond High y la Kennedy High son tan peligrosas como si fueran una de mi país.
In my country, this couldn't happen. And the schools from my community, Richmond High, Kennedy High, they're so dangerous as if they were from my country.
Por eso les pido de la manera más atenta que le den la oportunidad a estos jóvenes, puesto que es el futuro de este país.
So that's why I, in the most sincere way, ask you to give these young people the opportunity because they're the future of this country.
Gracias.
Thank you.
We call the next group up. Thank you. I have 5 more people. If you would come up when I call your name. Ms. Guadalupe, Diego Garcia, Angel Lopez, Maria Cervantes, and Nicholas Vaca.
Good evening, esteemed board members. I'd like to start by thanking you for your service. I come to you tonight as an educator. I've worked in the Bay Area for AMETHOD Public Schools for 12 years, but I also come to you as both a West Contra Costa parent of a traditional public school and as a Contra Costa taxpayer. I have 4 reasons that I believe that you should keep John Henry open. The first is that it serves a vulnerable and deserving population, and it provides a quality service to that population. It provides an education that I believe is better in many ways than the 3 public high schools open to students coming from inner city Richmond. It makes little sense to me to shut down a school that has had some of the best results in its 5 years of operation. I want to repeat and remind you guys that this school is 5 years old. The second reason is it has immense parental support. If you look behind me, I think you can see that. Furthermore, our parents are savvy and intelligent. The idea that they would be barred from the board because they'd be hoodwinked by board members is simply inaccurate. So I want to make sure that that's not something that anybody thinks is going on. Our families are very much active in the schools, and they're very knowledgeable that the schools won't survive unless they're performing. And performing to them often means that students are getting into college and that they're getting high academic scores. The final reason is that I would like this school to be open as an option for my own children. It's an equity issue to me. It provides a quality education to a lot of families that don't have that option. My wife and I, even though we work hard, we can't afford a private school. We simply can't afford the small community of a college preparatory school, and this is a choice for my family and for the families behind me.
Thank you.
Hola, buenas noches. Mi nombre es Guadalupe de la Cruz.
Hi, good evening. My name is Guadalupe de la Cruz.
Yo tengo una hija en 9º grado.
I have a daughter in 9th grade.
El cual es muy interesante. He escuchado algunos puntos muy interesantes de por qué hizo el cambio. A mi hija de 3er grado le dijeron que pedí ayuda en primera, no sabía lo más esencial en el nivel académico en inglés, que son los sonidos.
And it's interesting because I've heard some points why the change. Because my daughter, since 3rd grade, she was struggling with some basic things like the basic English, which are the sounds.
En matemáticas no sabía los números para el 3er grado. Pedí ayuda al maestro y lo único que consiguió la maestra fue decirle a mi hija que no podía llegar lejos, que para que yo como madre me esforzaba. Si mi hija no iba a salir adelante.
And in terms of in mathematics, she didn't know the numbers, and that was in 3rd grade. So I asked the teacher for help, and the only thing the teacher told me was that she wouldn't get far, and why was I working so hard as a mom if she wasn't going to be able to get ahead.
Es bien decepcionante como padre que enfrente de tu hijo te digan que le corten las alas a tu hijo en lugar de educarlo. Para eso están los profesores, para educar a nuestros hijos y enseñarles.
It's very disappointing as a parent to hear that from a teacher, that telling you that you should cut your children's wings when all you want is for them to be successful.
Tomé la decisión de hacer el cambio en una escuela diferente, el cual recibió toda la ayuda que ella necesitaba, de estar en una F. Hoy, orgullosamente, mi hija está arriba del 4.0.
So that's why I took the decision, and we went from that to a school where we receive all the help that we need, and my daughter went from having an F to, and I'm proud to say this, have a 4.0.
Cuando un día le dijeron que no iba a llegar lejos, ella va por más, ella va por todo, quiere ir a la universidad, tiene muchos proyectos.
From one day hearing that she wouldn't get anywhere, and now she's aiming for even more. She wants to go to the university. She has a lot of projects.
En la escuela John Henry le he venido dando la oportunidad de tener clases avanzadas de matemáticas. Descubrieron el talento de mi hija y sigue adelante. Tiene una habilidad para las artes.
At John Henry High School, she's been given the opportunity, and they to take advanced math. They discovered a talent in her, and also there's the option of taking art class.
El cual le brindaron la oportunidad de recibir clases avanzadas. Ella fue reclasificada. En el momento que hice el cambio, al primer año, ella fue reclasificada.
Which has given her an opportunity to take advanced classes from the time that she was evaluated, because when she first started there, they had an evaluation for her.
Le están brindando la oportunidad de que entre en muchos programas antes de entrar a la universidad.
Which has provided her with the opportunity for her to participate in many different programs before going into university.
Está muy contenta de asistir a esa escuela. Es muy preocupante para mí como padre y como ella darle la tranquilidad de decirle que su escuela va a seguir adelante.
She's very happy at the school, and it's very worrisome for me as a parent to not be able to tell her that her school is going to continue and that she can also continue getting ahead.
Yo como papá, si tengo que manejar más lejos con tal de que no vaya a la escuela que le corresponde, lo haré.
Me as a mother, if I have to drive farther in order so that she doesn't go to the school that corresponds to her, that's what I'll do.
Hoy mi hija quiere estudiar, está enfocada en ir a la universidad y yo como padre aquí estoy apoyándole.
Today my daughter wants to study. She's focused on going to university, and me as her mother, I'm supporting her.
Good evening, Board. My name is Diego Garcia. I'm a youth counselor in the city of Richmond and have worked for over 10 years with Adventist youth in the public schools. And that's Richmond High, Kennedy, De Anza, and also in Concord. And one of the things that I was doing as a youth counselor there, I was teaching a life skills class. And most of the kids that I was working with were kids who were referred either by probation, they were referred by their counselors, or even by the principal. One of the things that I noticed is that most of these kids that I was working with on a daily basis, they had their self-esteem very low. And only because they thought that people didn't believe in them. And that's the reason they were just reacting to that. What is the message that we send these kids if we were to close John Henry High School? Is that we don't believe in them. Most of the parents that are here and the kids that are here, they are so powerful in the message that they're trying to convey in this, that they need their school open. This is their choice. I have sat in so many boards and commissions, and I have either been appointed or been elected to be able to give people the choice in word of what they really want to become. If we give them something different, the message that we're trying to give them is that you don't have a choice and we don't believe in you. And these kids, believe me, are not going to be going to the schools that they don't choose to go to. We're going to lose them, not just in the community, but we're going to lose them completely. I'm here in support of the families that I've worked with, and also the staff that have proven that John Henry is a school for these kids. Let's keep it open. Thank you.
Hola, buenas noches. Mi nombre es María Cervantes.
Hello, good evening. My name is Maria Cervantes.
La razón que yo estoy aquí es porque yo tengo dos hijos en la escuela, uno que asiste a RCA y el otro que asiste a John Henry High School.
The reason I'm here is because I have two children who go to school. One goes to RCA and one goes to John Henry High School.
Y realmente no venía yo aquí a hablar, pero al escuchar los puntos que están tratando ustedes con los maestros, que les preocupa tanto como los padres nos involucremos en la mesa directiva con ustedes o nos involucremos en la escuela.
Usually I wouldn't be up here talking, but when I've heard the points that you've been making when you're talking to the teachers and when you're telling them about whether the parents are involved and whether the parents want to be involved in the board.
Y yo como padre que estoy aquí ahorita afuera escuchando los puntos, tristemente me doy cuenta que en las escuelas públicas realmente no les importa la educación de los hijos, de nuestros hijos. Algo que siento, algo que yo en este momento, mi punto que yo puedo expresar es que realmente, ¿qué es lo que están buscando ellos? ¿La educación de los niños o el dinero que están perdiendo cuando ellos están yendo de sus escuelas?
As somebody who's been listening to the points that have been made here, and as a mother, what I want to know is what really matters to them. Whether our children are receiving a good education or whether it's about the money, about what's going on with the money if they leave the school.
Porque si así como dicen que muchas de las escuelas charters tienen mucho dinero en fondos, las escuelas públicas tienen muchísimo dinero que no utilizan. Las escuelas charters, ellas quizá tengan fondos, mas lo están usando para educar a nuestros hijos. Las escuelas públicas tienen el dinero, no nos escuchan, no nos ayudan en nada. Cuando vamos a los... Perdón.
You're saying that, and I hear that like charter schools have a lot of money, but public schools also have a lot of money. But the money from the charter schools goes to help our children. The public schools, the money that goes to the public schools, they don't listen to us, they don't help us.
Me tocó en una ocasión que fui a tener una entrevista con una de las maestras de mis hijos. ¿Qué fue lo que me dijo? Oh, su hijo va perfectamente bien. Le dije, ¿en qué le puedo ayudar? ¿Qué es lo que él necesita para seguir ayudándolo académicamente?
There was an occasion where I went to a parent-teacher meeting and the teacher told me, oh, your son is doing well, he's doing fabulously well. And I asked her, what does he need? What does he need academically? How can I support him?
Y ella me dijo, no, todo está bien. Al mes después que me llegaron las calificaciones, los grados súper bajos. Entonces, ¿qué es lo que ellas están haciendo detrás? ¿Qué es lo que las escuelas públicas le quieren proveer a nuestros hijos? ¿Y cuál es la razón que quieren quitarle esa oportunidad que ellos tienen con las escuelas charters como la John Henry?
And a month later I get the grades and all the grades were very low. So what are they going for? What are they trying to do at public schools? Are they trying to help? And why are you trying to take the opportunity away from charter schools?
Y como en este país siempre han dicho que los niños son lo más importante, la educación de los niños es lo más importante, que es lo que tiene que ser para ustedes y para nosotros, mas están mostrando exactamente todo lo contrario al querernos cerrar las escuelas que realmente les están proveyendo una educación que ellos realmente necesitan.
Now this country has always been saying that the most important thing is the children and the education of the children is the most important thing, and that's true. But why then would they be willing to close down the schools that our children need to get the education, which is what they really need?
All right, thank you.
Last question, please.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Hello and good afternoon, board members. Being close to a high school with a bad reputation is frightening, and not being able to get a full education that I anticipate is not fair. Luckily, there is another option that has my education as its first priority and has made every effort to have the students go to college. All of this is possible with John Henry High School. With each passing year, John Henry High School has been threatened to shut down, and each year I am afraid that one day I will not get the education that I and so many willingly deserve. Each year, John Henry High School gets threatened to shut down, and I try to help stop it or at least make my voice be heard by coming to these meetings. in favor of my school for a better education and a better future. John Henry High School is a school that makes a promise to make its students go to a 4-year university and actually does its best to deliver this promise. I have been in charter schools since 6th grade, and I have seen the difference between public and charter schools, and would go as far as to say that the difference is night and day due to the amount of attention each child receives from teacher or tutor. Having to go to a school in an area that is low income and not in good wealth, it's hard for my education and experience for my education, and well-being for a good education is needed for me to go to college. Having another option is crucial to my choices in life and education, and finding a good 4-year college that is right for me. The main reason why I went to a charter school is so I can have a choice in the type of education that I'm getting. Getting into the right college is important because it provides for a good, solid opportunities for me and my peers for a stable future. Thank you.
Does the board clerk have any more speaker cards? Okay. The hearing is now closed.
I'm sorry. I want to tell you why I transitioned from a board member to become CEO of AMS. Before I came to AMS, I worked for the Contra Costa County Superior Court. And in that capacity, I worked with conservatorships. And the typical case that I got was a maternal grandmother who would come to my office and say, Mr. Vaca, how do I get legal custody of my grandchild? I said, well, what's the situation? She says, well, my daughter is on drugs and she's homeless. And my grandchild is 3 years old and there's no one to care for them. So how do I do it? And as I did these, I would have workshops in Richmond, I had workshops in Antioch, and I had Richmond workshops in Martinez. And each one of the workshops I'd have 4 or 5, sometimes as many as 10, usually grandparents seeking the guardianship. And as I looked at the child, I thought to myself, that child's life is basically over. It's doomed. You got a mother on drugs, and you got a grandmother who's going to take care of them because they have to. What is the off-ramp? What is the opportunity for them to escape? And for me, it's education, which was my escape route. And so when I was working with the AMPS as a board member and saw what it did, it convinced me that this was an opportunity. This would provide an opportunity for children such as that and other disadvantaged children as a way out. Education is a wonderful machine. It's a wonderful vehicle, and it gets you out of situations, it gets you out of poverty, and it gets you ahead. And that's why I think you should renew John Henry High School's charter. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that all the speakers now? Okay. Now the public hearing is closed. The Board of Education will deliberate and make its decision regarding John Henry High School renewal at its meeting on March 11, 2020.
President Chavez, can I ask a question?
Board members, are there any questions or comments you'd like to make before we move on?
Yes, I would like to make a comment and a question, and I want to thank, first of all the speakers who came and spoke to us, and everyone who came, whether you spoke or not. I really appreciate hearing from everyone, and I just want to remind everybody, every single one of us board members are elected, and we are elected to serve in this capacity, and we do have to follow the procedures. It's not personally for me anything about closing a school or not. We are supposed to listen to the information that we're provided from our staff. They have to follow Ed Code, which leads me to the next point that I want to say. I'd just like to ask our staff and Deputy Superintendent, could we have our DWK attorney, our charter attorney, review before our next meeting? You mentioned it March 11th. our findings of fact and be here because this decision will be so important. I'd like to have that DWK attorney here so we are knowing that we're getting the correct information and all the information we need. We have to follow Ed Code, what is it, 46507 and 607 and 605. So thank you, and thank you again for everyone who came today.
Let's answer the question. Do you want to answer the question?
I would take that recommendation to Superintendent Mackey, and generally we support the thinking given the complexity of the issues.
Dr. Allen?
I know that Dr. Delgado made a statement about documentation about special education. I wanted to know if we can make a request to Superintendent Duffy for a copy of the document, since I believe it would be critical in our decision making.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So, since the public hearing is closed, we'll give you a few. Do you guys want to take a break? Yeah. Let's take a 3-minute break while we clear the room.